Our scripture reading this morning is 1 Corinthians 10, verses 1 to 13. 1 Corinthians 10. For I do not want you to be ignorant of the fact, brothers and sisters, that our ancestors were all under the cloud, and that they all passed through the sea. They were all baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea. They all ate the same spiritual food and drank the same spiritual drink, for they drank from the spiritual rock that accompanied them. The rock was Christ. Nevertheless, God was not pleased with most of them. Their bodies were scattered in the wilderness. Now these things occurred as examples to keep you from settling our hearts on evil things as they did. Do not be idolaters, as such of them were, as it is written, that people sat down to eat and drink and got up to indulge in revelry. We should not commit sexual immorality, as some of them did, and in one day 23,000 of them died. We should not test Christ, as some of them did, and were killed by snakes. And do not grumble, as some of them did, and were killed by the destroying angel. These things happened to them as examples and were written down as warnings for us, on whom the culmination of ages has come. So if you think you are standing firm, be careful that you don't fall. No temptation has overtaken you except what is common to mankind, and God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear, but when you are tempted, He will also provide a way out so you can endure it. Well, God won't give you more than you can handle. I'm sure many of you have heard people say this, and maybe even some of you have said it yourself. God won't give you more than you can handle. I'm not sure I've ever really understood this statement, because there have been many times in my life when I've felt this is more than I can handle. God won't give you more than you can handle. This phrase is sometimes heard in times of illness, addiction, broken relationship, family troubles, difficult work situations, and so on. When we're speaking to people in these situations, we can easily say, "Don't worry, this wouldn't be happening if God didn't think you could handle it." But this couldn't be further from the truth. God won't give you more than you can handle. This statement is just another misquoted non-Bible verse. This is a promise that the Bible never states. We serve a God who wants us to come to Him with our cares and not try to handle everything on our own. I'm sure if you've ever used this statement, it has been to encourage people in difficult times. But if it's not the truth, then maybe we shouldn't say it. God won't give you more than you can handle is, in a way, saying that all the bad stuff that happens to us is from God. To say God won't give you more than you can handle is to say that God is actively placing bad stuff in our lives to see how strong we are. I don't believe the God we serve is that kind of God. But I think we can say this to people, that God won't give you more than you can handle. It really has nothing to do with God. I think we're just saying this to people. You're strong. You can handle this. Or you should be able to handle this. And if you can't, it's because maybe you aren't strong enough spiritually. Because if you can't handle what God is giving you, you must not be spiritually strong enough. And maybe you need to pray more or read your Bible or something. Well, it may be true that we all need to spend more time in prayer, and it may be true that we constantly need to develop our spiritual growth. But it would be unfair to assume that someone who is spiritually weak on the basis of an untruth. God, as he is presented in the Bible, is not a God who tests our strength by seeing how much we can handle. The God of the Bible does not sit back and watch bad things happen to his people just so he can jump in when he thinks it's been too much for us. The God we love and serve is one who wants to help us. He wants us to rely on him for guidance and strength. It's not God who gives us more than we can handle. Life gives us more than we can handle. This broken world that we live in gives us more than we can handle. Our first me, get lots of stuff, godless society gives us more than we can handle. The explosion of technology over the past 50 years gives us more than we can handle. We feel forced to live life at a frantic pace, to check that email constantly, check that text message, become too much for us. Life is more than we can handle sometimes, but it would be quite wrong to blame God for this by saying God won't give you more than you can handle. God hasn't done this to us. We've done it to ourselves. Life is too hard to do it on our own. We need the Lord, and we need the help of our community, of the Lord's people, to help support us and love us during hard times. In Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." We don't see in this verse that Jesus is saying, "Come to me because I have given you more than you can handle." No, he is saying, "Come to me, all you who are weary, all you who have burdens, come to me and I will help you." God does not cause bad things to happen in our lives. Cancer, hurricanes, fires, car accidents, family breakups. God does not give us bad things, and God certainly isn't testing us to see how much we can handle. In hard times, when bad things happen to us, we need to remind ourselves that we have a God who wants to help us in these times. We need, at those times, to say, we need help, and trust that God will be there. It says in 1 Corinthians 10:13, "No test or temptation that comes your way is beyond the course of what others have had to face. All you need to remember is that God will never let you down. He will never let you be pushed past your limit. He'll always be there to help you come through it." This is probably where the idea that God won't give you more than you can handle came from, but we must remember that this verse is talking about temptation, not about bad things that happen in our lives. In 1 Corinthians, Paul was talking to new Christians who were still living pagan lifestyles, and he was trying to tell them that they needed to trust God and stop living their old sinful life. And Paul promises that the Lord is going to be with them in this new life. But that's not the same as saying that the Lord is not going to give the Corinthians a lot to handle. The Corinthians were going to have to handle a lot. Suffering never asks the question, are you ready for what's about to come? There is never a good time in our lives for bad things to happen. And we are reminded by the psalmist that says, "God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, though the earth gives way, and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea. Though its waters roar and foam, the mountains quake with their surging." Even when we feel like the world is being destroyed around us, we can be confident like the psalmist and know that God is our refuge. For we will be given more, for sure we will be given more than we can handle. But we need to remember that we have a God who can handle much more than we can. Again, the psalmist says, "Where does my help come from? My help comes from the Lord, the maker of heaven and earth." I don't know about you, but I think this is a much more helpful saying than "God won't give you more than you can handle." Our strength and comfort comes from the Creator of the universe. He made the heavens and the earth. He made the mountains and the oceans. I think I would rather trust in His strength to get me through tough times than to rely on my own strength in these times. Life is more than I can handle, lots of times, but life is not more than the Lord can handle, and he has promised to be with me. All throughout the Bible, we read of God's people receiving more than they can handle. Moses took thousands of Israelites out of the country where they were slaves and had to figure out how to provide for them. He had to listen to their complaints and encourage them to trust God. Not an easy task, and certainly it was more than Moses could handle, and he admitted it. But this impossible task was made so much easier when Moses understood that this was God's plan and that the only hope of success was to go in the strength of the Lord. David killed a giant, a man more than twice his size, but he did it on God's strength, not his own. Joseph was sold into slavery and ended up being the most powerful man in Egypt because he never gave up on the God he loved and served. Daniel was thrown into the lion's den and survived because he never gave up on the God he loved and served. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego were thrown into the fiery furnace, but they did not give up on their faith. Mary got pregnant as a teenager and had to put her life in God's hands to trust that this was his plan for her life. Paul was beaten, shipwrecked, imprisoned, and given a thorn in the flesh. But through all this, he continued to trust God, who was in charge of his life. If life did not give us more than we can handle, then we would have no need for God at all. We could just handle all things ourselves. But the fact is, life is often more than we can handle, and that is a fact. And we do need the Lord to go with us through these times because he can handle anything that comes our way. Mark Twain said, "I have experienced many difficulties in my life, and some of them have been real." Ours is an age of epidemic anxiety. Seeking God is proven and legitimate choice. And in John 16:33, there is a promise that we can hold when we are facing situations in our lives that we're sure we can handle. Jesus says, "I've told you all this so that trusting me, you will be unshakable and assured deeply at peace. In this godless world, you will continue to experience difficulties, but take heart. I've conquered the world." The God we love and serve is one who is faithful to meet all our needs. As we read at the beginning of the service today, he is our refuge and our strength. When we come face to face with these situations in life that seem so overwhelming, trust in God who created you and died for you. We will face trials in life. We will face things that we aren't equipped to handle, things we can't handle. And even those people who are the strongest we know get tired, but God never gets tired. He is more than able to handle anything that comes our way. His resources never run out. His strength never fails. His power never goes tired. In Isaiah 40, we have those familiar verses that say it loud and clear. He gives strength to the weary and increases the power of the weak. Even youths grow tired and weary, and young men stumble and fall. But those who hope in the Lord will renew their strength. They will soar on wings like eagles. They will run and not grow weary. They will walk and not faint. Well, there's a very familiar song that says, "I'll go in the strength of the Lord," and many of you are familiar with it, I'm sure. The song says, "I'll go in the strength of the Lord. In paths he has marked for my feet. I'll follow the light of his word, nor shrink from the dangers I meet. His presence my steps shall attend. His fullness my wants shall supply. On him till my journey shall end, my unwavering faith shall rely. I'll go in the strength of the Lord to work he appoints me to do. In joy which his smile doth afford, my soul shall her vigor renew. His wisdom shall guard me from harm. His power my sufficiency prove. I'll trust his omnipotent arm and prove his unchangeable love. I'll go in the strength of the Lord to conflicts which faith will require. His grace as my shield and reward, my courage and zeal tale shall inspire, since he gives the word of command to meet and encounter the foe. With his sword of truth in my hand, to suffer and triumph I'll go. It's not a matter of being able to handle it all. Life will often give us much more than we can handle, but God will be with us through all life's challenges. This is the promise of God. In our response today, I'd like us to sing, He is able, more than able, to accomplish what concerns me today. And if you have those concerns that you think you can't handle, or you're feeling that there's just too much, our place of prayer is always opened as we sing together, He is able, more than able.